Good evening and welcome to the Pasco City Council. We're good? Okay. Good evening and welcome to the Pasco City Council meeting. The council thanks you for being part of our city government. At meetings, the council takes formal action on items, holds public hearings, and conducts other business of the city. Agenda packets are available at the City of Pasco's website at www.pasco-wa.gov/agenda. This meeting is being televised live on PSC-TV, channel 191 on Spectrum Cable in Pasco and Richland, and streamed on the city's Facebook page, website, YouTube channel, and Microsoft Teams webinar. This and previous council meetings video is available on the city's website. Lastly, the public may submit their comments and or questions by contacting the city manager, city clerk, or by using the Ask Pasco app. With that, if I could get a roll call.
Councilmember Barajas.
Present.
Blaisdell.
Here.
Grimm.
Here.
Perales.
Here.
Milne.
I'm here.
And Harpster and Serrano are excused. 5 council members present, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you. Much appreciated. If we could all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, well, that moves us on to the consent agenda. All items listed on the consent agenda are considered to be routine by the City Council and will be enacted by roll call vote as one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items. If further discussion is desired by council members, the item may be removed from the consent agenda to the regular agenda and considered separately. So we have A, which is approval of meeting minutes for June 9th, 16th, 23rd, and June 30th. We have bills and communications approving claims in the total amount of $8,419,368.36. Resolution number 4620, acceptance of work of MLB required improvements at Giza Stadium, dugout bench additions, Phase 1B. We got Code Enforcement Board reappointments of Dwayne Spear and Daniel Galetchuk. I got E, which is HAPO Center Advisory Board reappointment of Jennifer Kolinsky. We got F, Historic Preservation Commission appointment of Jay Hender and reappointment of Divy Tate. We got G, Pasco Housing Authority of the City of Pasco and Franklin County Board of Commissioners reappointment of Paul Cook. We got H, which is Park and Recreation Advisory Board reappointments of John Morgan and Mark Middleton. We got I, Pasco Public Facilities District Board reappointment of Spencer Gillek. We got J, Planning Commission appointments of Rob Waits and Austin Crawford and reappointment of Dana Crutchfield. With that, can I get a motion?
Mayor, I move to approve the consent agenda as read.
Second.
We got a motion by Perales and a second by Blaisdell. If we could get roll call on this.
Councilmember Blaisdell.
Yes.
Grimm.
Yes.
Perales.
Yes.
Barajas.
Yes.
And Milne.
Yes.
It passes unanimously.
Thank you. So move on to number 5, which is proclamations and acknowledgements. I'm not seeing anything. Which leads us to number 6, which is public comments. The public may address council on any items unless it relates to the scheduled public hearing. These items is provided to allow the opportunity to bring items to the attention of the city council or to express an opinion on an issue. Its purpose is not to provide a venue for debate or for the purpose of questions with the expectation of an immediate response. Some questions require consideration by council over time and after a deliberate process with input from a number of different sources. Some questions are best directed at staff members who have access to specific information. Citizens' comments will be normally limited to 3 minutes by the mayor, and there's a clock up there. Those with lengthy messages are invited to summarize their comments and or submit written information for consideration by the council outside of formal meetings. Lastly, when called upon, please state your name and city or county residency into the microphone before providing your comments. So with that, do we want to do the ones online first?
Yes. So Mayor Pro Tem, it looks like Lori Thompson is online, and then we do have a call-in, but it's a phone number, so I don't have their name. But you do have 3 that had signed up for tonight.
Okay, so let's start off with, you said Lori Thompson was the first one, so let's start off with her first.
Lori, it looks like you should be able to unmute yourself on your side. Okay, Lori, how about now? Can you try your unmute button? Mayor Pro Tem, what I can do is take the contact information and try and contact them offline and see what's going on.
Okay. Was there anybody else then that's,
There is a call-in number with a 541 area code as well.
but no name?
No name.
All right. Well, with that, while we're maybe trying to work through this stuff, why don't we have people from the audience? If you'd like to go first. There's a little button there. Yep, now it's on.
Good evening. My name is Amber Wade. In the jungle of Newell, on a warm sunny day, an elephant bathed as he splashed on his way. The water was lovely, the breeze just blew just right, when a small voice called out, soft but full of fright. He paused and he listened. Now what could that be? Then he spotted a speck floating wild and free. He caught it with a care in the curve of his trunk and said, there is life here, as sure as I thunk. A person, he said, on that speck do you live? You're smaller than small, but so sensitive. He placed the speck gently on top of a bloom and promised to guard them through worry and gloom. But the others just scoffed, there's no one in there. That speck is just dust floating through the air. Still, Horton stood firm. There are people, I swear, and someone must speak even when it's not fair. A vulture swooped in and snatched up the flower, then dropped it deep in a field full of clover. But Horton kept looking. He never gave in. He picked every clover again and again. Until, yes, he found it, and loud came the plea, we are here on clover 5003. Still others around him refused to believe. Make noise, Horton cried. Don't give in, don't grieve. The whoos banged their kettles, blew trumpets and all. But it wasn't enough. No one heard the call. Then one little who gave a yawp from the back, and that single sound picked up the slack. The jungle fell still, the others leaned in, and last they believed what came from within. They turned to the elephant, noble and tall, who simply said, a person's a person, no matter how small. But Whoville's not fiction. It lives here today in a small park in Pasco, not so far away. For 2 years we've shouted, the pressure is low, but they shrugged it off. They just told us no. They said it's your pipes, it's not on our side. They turned from the problem, they ran, they denied. But still we kept speaking, though tiny and few. And we weren't alone because someone heard too. We needed your help, we needed you all, and you who believed us when no one else would. You lifted our voices, you did what you could because of your listening, because you stood near. The ones who denied us have started to hear. The pressure's not fixed, but the silence is cracked. And we know we were heard because you had our back. So thank you for hearing what others let fall. For proving that voices don't need to be tall. We couldn't be loud without help from you all. Because a person, no matter how small.
Thank you. Do we have somebody else from the audience that would like to speak?
Are you doing your phone thing?
I think we're going to come back to that at the end. We'll see if maybe we get that figured out. But so, Mrs. Maloney.
Is this on?
Yeah, it's still on.
Mary Mahoney, Pasco resident, to Pasco via RCW 42.56. Recently, a longtime Pasco resident stated to Pasco City Council, quote, Pasco is cramming everybody in like sardines in these new subdivisions, and Pasco is building a slum. Council needs to tell its staff on the left what to do instead of the staff telling council what to do. End of the comment. Pasco caters to the developers and to the chosen few and not to the citizens of Pasco. Basically, it's a money grab, a feeding frenzy. With Pasco's CIP budget well over $500 million, how much are we paying the taxpayers? How much are we paying the Kerr Law Group with Pasco City Attorney Lee Kerr and his proxies? How much are we paying GMP Consultants with Pasco City Manager Dave Zabel as its senior consultant? Give a total amount paid out to ex-Pasco Mayor Matt Watkins and or Watkins Endeavor LLC at a rate of approximately $11,000 per month, plus his travel expenses. Provide a total cost for the Pasco Aquatic Center's Wow Factor wave machine, costing anywhere from $22 million to $280 million. List the funds scheduled for a low-barrier homeless shelter for people. List funds scheduled for a low-cost spay-neuter clinic for dogs and cats. Provide fines paid by Pasco and spot zoning developers Hayden Homes for killing our 8 floodplain American bald eagles and their eaglets. Provide a permit number 404 that allows Pasco to develop and destroy our floodplain. Include all fecal matter testing reports regarding our floodplain water supply. Provide all past and present ULID and LID designs for my Pasco property with start dates and costs. Include all Pasco officials' communications regarding harassment and retaliation against me and my property. See my comments and requests to Pasco and Council on 6/2/25 and more, regarding animal control and or TCAS, theft, animal cruelty, the WSU research contract, Pasco City Attorney Lee Kerr's authorization of no due process, racial discrimination, and more. See my files. Provide all federal and state investigations currently underway for the city of Pasco regarding fraud, corruption, and more. My comments are for the record and to put Pasco on notice.
Thank you for that. Do we have anybody else in the audience that would that's here that would like to tell us what they think? Not seeing any. Going once, going twice, going 3 times. Staff, do we know if we were able to get any of the people back online?
I think there was a technical issue and she's outside connecting with them on the phone to see
Okay.
if we can resolve the technical issue.
Okay, so let's start off with Celeste. If you could, you had 3 minutes and tell us what's on your mind.
I don't have anything to say at this moment.
Okay, there's nothing because we can't hear you. So okay,
Are you able to hear me now?
Yes, we can.
yeah, we can hear you.
I have nothing to say right now.
Okay, well,
So Mayor Pro Tem, we are having some technical difficulties. Lori is on my phone, so I was gonna try her through speaker. If it doesn't work, we've talked about it, but
Okay.
I'm gonna unmute my phone, get her to the mic.
Okay, let's try it.
Okay, Lori, go ahead and let's see if we can make this work.
Thank you. Are you folks able to hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. My name is Lori Thompson. I'm a resident of West Pasco, and my attendance tonight is primarily concerning the fireworks situation that we have here in town every 4th of July in particular. There are other dates, but primarily around the 4th of July, and not just the little fireworks that the children play with. I'm talking about the illegal M80 mortars and all the aerials. And I just learned today, apparently people put them in metal cans when they set them off to make them even louder. And this is not something that we can put up with here in town. I understand how the police may be overwhelmed with being able to respond to each and every call. And one of the issues I have with law enforcement and the fireworks is I'm being told that they have to actually see the people fire them off themselves in order to issue a citation. So I'm curious how many citations were issued this year and for what. But this is unlivable, what goes on over here in West Pasco in particular. I know that the entire Tri-Cities has big problems with it, but we need to figure out a solution so that we can all enjoy the 4th instead of being in fear that the house is going to burn down, the window's going to break, someone's going to get injured, they can't go outside. I actually last year had one of those bottle rockets land right on my feet, standing on the sidewalk in front of my house. So that's my quest, is that we need to address the use of the illegal fireworks in Pasco particularly.
All right, well, thank you for
And
that.
I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Thank you for the call in. I know we've got quite a lot of emails as well as far as council members. And in my verbal report, I will mention what I saw when I was out on a police ride along on 4th of July. But I think that's all we have online, correct? So let's move on. And again, we could hear from everybody what they did. So let's start off with members of the council for the verbal reports. This is 7A. Let's start off with Councilwoman Blaisdell.
Thank you. I'm going to take it back. Last weekend, I attended the Pasco Police Foundation fundraiser, and it was, I don't know how successful it was, but it seemed pretty successful in the silent auction and their live auction. Was very enjoyable. It's probably one of my favorite events to go to that we've had this last year. And then I also did the parade, which it was kind of overcast, but it seemed like the streets were pretty filled from beginning to end. All the kids were enjoying the candy that was being thrown, and then the dancing in the middle of the street before the parade. And then I also did the car show, judging the car show, which I picked a 1965 Impala as Mayor Choice. And then I finished the night off with, right along with the Pasco Police Department. And I will say that we had a lot of interaction with the fire department, and it was nonstop. I did 4 hours. I started at 8 o'clock and ended at midnight, and it was one thing after the other. And I will say this, they couldn't keep up, police or fire, so they were pretty overwhelmed. But everywhere we went, they were doing the best that they could to get on to the next call and get the solution handled. So I want to say thank you to police and fire for all of your hard work this weekend, probably since before the 4th, and it's probably still continuing. So kudos to our teams for really working hard, and I was gonna say something kind of inappropriate, but they really kicked butt this weekend. So thank you.
Well, thank you for that report. You gonna chime in as well, or?
Sure, I can. Yeah, I also attended the Grand Old 4th of July parade and some of the festivities. It was my daughter's birthday, so some things are a little bit more important. But the parade, as usual, and the festivities, flawless. Thank you to staff, and your staff is very courteous, professional. It just seems like it gets better every year, and it was enjoyment to myself, and my family. So thank you to you and your staff, Mr. Rice. Thank you.
Well, thank you for that report. I'm not seeing any of the lights, so I'll comment on it. Did start off with the 4th of July parade. I do appreciate Perales, Blaisdell, and Barajas, and I know Barajas went with the Mustang Club, so I do appreciate the involvement by council members. I did see Councilman Harpster, so I was glad that he was at least there. And then in the evening, it was a pleasure to give the speech since Mayor Serrano was out of town. And I will want to thank staff. I assume it was Nicole for writing a great speech. I did enjoy it. And I did say on the parade, I do also want to echo Perales's that we are blessed with great weather. I thought a good turnout overall. And I was lucky enough that my wife Nicole and grandchild were in the car with me, and we were able to wave at everybody and have a good time. And then after my speech at Giza Stadium, I did a ride along with John DeLiego, or it was a D'Aquila, yes, sorry about that. Can't read my own handwriting. And we were out till well after 1:30. And I know for myself, I was hoping we'd give more tickets, but it seemed like we were overwhelmed with intoxication, disturbances where people were drunk. Again, it just seemed like, and I guess Washington state law requires you have so many officers for some of these events. They said, like we pulled over a car that was not run with light, or it had problems with the car. And when there's 5 people in the car, you had to have extra officers. So the problem is we would see these fireworks going off. We're trying to get there, but other things, whether it was a car accidents, public intoxication, people tearing out of parking lots, people running without lights on. It was just one thing after another, and those were priority. But I will say, all the officers we talked to, we did try to keep going back, trying to find people that were shooting off illegal fireworks. A lot of times it was already done, and we did go off and talk to them, and we must have hit 6-7 houses. Definitely wanted to do more, but it was definitely frustrating when you get that many calls. You only have so many officers, and everybody's trying their best. And it did kind of seem like people were in competition with Giza Stadium. I was actually kind of shocked. The other fireworks that were going around, as a council, we do talk about these things. I think we're all wanting the best for the city of Pasco. We are wanting police force to clamp down on all this. And maybe that's further discussion on how we get there. But I know with the budget that we have and the police force that we have, we can only do so much. But I did want to give kudos to Pasco Police Department. Again, we were out till, and the fire department. Again, it seemed like everybody was working their hardest to try to do the best 4th of July that we could have. So again, my hat's off to you guys, and thank you. So with that, I'm not seeing any other lights. We'll jump to 8, which is hearing council action on ordinances and resolutions related to thereto. I'm not seeing any. We go to 9, which is ordinance and resolutions not related to hearings. So we have A, which is a quasi-judicial, and I'll read it, and then we'll have our lawyer say his. So we got quasi-judicial ordinance number 4779, Diaz rezoned from C1 to MU, and Mr. Ferguson.
Great, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Again, this is a quasi-judicial matter. It's a hearing or proceeding to render a final decision on the materials that are presented. It's defined as a proceeding in which the council defines the legal rights, duties, or privileges of the specific parties in a hearing, proceeding, or other contested proceeding. The appearance and fairness doctrine applies, and the hearing must be fair in three respects: form, substance, and appearance. All council members should consider whether they have potential conflicts as follows: A demonstrated bias for or against any of the parties; B, any direct or indirect financial interest in the outcome of the proceeding which would affect the council members personally; C, whether there has been any prejudgment of the issues prior to hearing the facts; D, whether there has been any ex parte contact with anyone other than staff prior to this hearing; and finally, E, any other conflict which a council member believes would prevent them from hearing this matter fairly and impartially. If any council member has any of these concerns or disclosures, now would be the time to make them known. Hearing none, are there any members of the public seeking to disqualify a member of council from participating in these proceedings? Seeing none, please proceed.
Well, thank you. We're going to go with Haley Miller as far as going to give us a presentation on this.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Good evening, Council. Tonight before you is an ordinance for a rezone of a parcel shown on the screen here that is just south of West Sylvester Street and then west of North 20th Avenue. And this is the northern portion of the parcel shown on the screen that is vacant. And the applicant proposed to rezone this parcel from C1 commercial zoning to mixed use zoning. And this is in compliance with the comprehensive plan designation, which is mixed use commercial. And this project went to a public hearing on May 14th, and the hearing examiner has recommended approval. There were no appeals that were received. And on the next slide, show the land use map here. This is the comprehensive plan zoning. That pink color is the mixed use commercial designation that was enacted in 2023. Then the next slide shows the current zoning of the property, which is C1, and that would be converted to mixed use commercial. And then for all rezone applications in Pasco, there is criteria that is listed on the screen. And when staff receives these applications, we go through and look at the criteria with the applicant, bring it to the public hearing, and then the hearing examiner takes input at the public hearing and verifies these criteria are met. And we have done so in the packet, and the hearing examiner has verified that. And then here is the process where it goes from the hearing examiner recommendation to city council for final approval via quasi-judicial hearing that is scheduled for tonight. So happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Thank you. Does any of the council have any questions for Director Miller? We got Councilman Barajas.
Thank you. Just a quick question. How many, and I probably read it and I don't know what page, those 130 pages. How many homes are planned to be built on here?
I'm not actually sure of the project action. This is the rezone, so it didn't detail exactly what they were doing on the site in the packet.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Do we have any other? I'm not seeing any. So with that, can I get a motion?
Mayor, I move to adopt ordinance number 4779, amending the zoning classification of certain real property located near the corner of West Sylvester Street and North 20th Avenue in Pasco, Washington, from C1 retail business to mixed use MU, and further authorize publication by summary only.
Second.
We got a first by Perales and a second by Blaisdell. So all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Looks like that one passes unanimously. So let's go on to B, which is resolution number 4621, setting time and date for a public hearing for an easement vacation for Big Sky Developers, LLC. And we also have Director Miller.
Thank you. This is a resolution to set a time to consider the easement vacation proposed by Big Sky Developers. And on the next slide, there's a bit of history here. Don't try and read all of that. I will explain it. But in the early 1900s, there was a petition filed by residents in the area to establish a 60-foot road. And then later on in 1910, the road or the easement was established by the Northern Pacific Railway Company. So there's an easement in that area. And then on the next slide, this is the process that staff goes through to determine if an easement should be vacated. And for those of you that don't know, when you vacate an easement, that just means that it's a public easement, but we, the city, are vacating it. We no longer have a need for it, and then that can be returned back to the applicant. In some cases, we can assess a fee. In other cases, if it's just fixing an existing deficiency, we do not recommend that. So we go through the different approval criteria listed on this screen, and we feel this is eligible for an easement vacation and have scheduled a public hearing for August 18th. And the next slide, I believe, shows a aerial photo of the easement. It's a small 3-foot strip that is located on the east side of Convention Drive. So the right-of-way width there, I believe 80 feet is needed total from the center of the line. And so if you follow Convention Drive up to the north, we do not need that extra 3 feet that is on the applicant's property. So that 3 feet has been determined not to be needed, and staff is recommending this be vacated, and the decision and discussion can happen during the public hearing, but I'm happy to answer any questions you have before setting a hearing date. Thank you.
All right, with that, does any of the council have any questions for Director Miller? I'm not seeing any, so if I could get a motion, Councilman Perales.
Mayor, I move to approve resolution number 4621, setting a 7:00 p.m. Monday, August 18th, 2025 hearing as the time and date for a public hearing to consider the vacation of the eastern 3 feet of the easement established by auditors file number 487139, originally granted by the Northern Pacific Railway Company in Pasco, Washington, and a waiver of the requirements for a title report, appraisal of value, and compensation.
Second.
All right, so we have a motion by Councilman Perales and a second by Councilwoman Blaisdell. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. And all opposed say nay. Not hear nay, so it passes unanimously. With that, we are going to roll on to number 10, unfinished business, and looks like we have a city manager finalist interview process, and we got looks like human resource director Sarah.
Actually,
Are you going to do it? Okay.
Mayor Pro Tem, I'll take this. And good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and Council. So at your last week's special meeting, as you might recall, staff and the GMP consulting team reviewed with Council the candidate interview process. There's basically 5 parts to that process. Just to review, a tour of the city is one of them. Executive session candidate meet and greet with the council, which will take place on Sunday evening. Followed by a public reception meet and greet. Worth noting that the general public, as well as I anticipate many of our stakeholders and other interested parties, will be at that event to meet the candidates. The following day on the 14th, panel interviews along with a council executive session to top the day off to discuss the qualifications of the candidates. So that kind of gives you a sense of the sequencing there. And then council would take subsequent action regarding an appointment at a time of their choosing afterwards. That's certainly not scheduled at this point in time. It could happen very quickly. It could take a while. But with respect to the panels, when we closed out the topic last week, there were some different impressions among staff and council as to whether there would be 3 panels or 2 panels. And we're back for a quick discussion tonight to kind of settle this ambiguity so we can get this schedule finalized. So the 2-panel option is basically city council and senior staff. And I know there were council members that felt that was the way they wanted to go because there was already an opportunity for stakeholders and other public community influencers perhaps to meet the candidates at the previous evening and provide input to council. Then there's a 3-panel option that we talked about that had some support among council, which would be city council as a panel, the directors as a panel, and then a stakeholders group, which would, members of the public. So the company's experience, I'll just share, has been that the inclusion of stakeholders solely for the purpose of identifying candidate strengths and weaknesses, not to rank them or anything else, of the candidates, can be helpful to decision makers and results in a degree of buy-in on the council's ultimate decision. So that's one of the advantages of having that panel. Again, you do have the function the night before as well. Regardless of whether you have two panels or one panels, obviously this is the council's sole decision to make. And staff is asking, you have two motions to consider. Option A, that it believes a two-panel option, and option B, the three-panel. We're looking for some directions so we can finalize this. Any questions?
All right, well, thank you. We're going to start off with Councilman Grimm.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. I would be for option A. I was one of the ones last week that talked about the different options and was kind of just at least thinking out loud about it as far as including the stakeholders. And I love the idea of the buy-in and having them as part of the process, but yet it would be really easy for people to feel left out because not everybody's going to be in that group. And so I love the idea of the open house the day before where many of these stakeholders are invited and can interact. But I would be for option A as I think the cleanest and easiest way of putting it of the two panels. Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Grimm. We got Councilwoman Barajas.
I have a quick question for staff on what we've done in the past. I'm looking at David. Not sure if you recall what the process was when we brought on Adam, but that was a little different. Here we're starting brand new. Can you, Dave, I'm not sure if you were there, but Richa or staff, can someone refresh me on the process we went through when Dave was brought on?
When I was brought on? Yeah, I can.
Well, because Adam's process,
Maria was here.
again, Adam's process was different because Adam was basically already on board. He was the interim.
Yeah.
So he just kind of transitioned in. But the process to bringing in someone new, someone different.
And I can give you my experience with it as a candidate. I can't tell you how well it worked. Well, I think it came out with a good decision, but that aside, I can't tell you how smooth of a process it was because I wasn't involved in the internal piece. But basically, there were three panels. There was a council and two additional panels. And those two panels had a mix of department directors and community members, community influencers. The school superintendent, college president, folks like that, Chamber of Commerce.
Thank you. That's the response I was looking forward to. I would opt for option B because again, I'm going to state this, what I said before. It's a community-wide consensus of who is going to help us as council members to run the city when we're not present. Someone that does the hard work behind closed doors. And so I think it's the community that should be involved. Like Mr. Zabel just mentioned, colleges, your school directors, your possibly your school board president, but someone that has a stake in it and someone that has good input to share on why they're participating. That's my take. Thank you.
Thank you for that. We're going to move on to Councilman Prowse.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I'll be brief. Yeah, I agree with Councilmember Grimm. I thought about it a lot over the weekend because I knew we were going to talk about this tonight. I just don't really see any benefit from it because I did think about, I don't want to leave anyone out. I don't want to get into this whole, I suggest like 4 or 5 people and then half the council doesn't agree and then it just goes back and forth. I think the points that interim city manager Dave Zill made about, maybe having, Superintendent Whitney, CBC, but at the same time, I'll just say it, I don't really feel like we have like the best relationships with any of those entities. We're community partners, but it's not like we talk every week or something. So I'm going to go off of their judgment. I don't know. I don't know what benefit I would get from hearing what they think. I think the community mixer on Sunday is something great. People can come, they can talk to them. I just think at the end of the day, hearing from director heads and talking amongst ourselves, we'll be able to get a good kind of grasp of the three candidates and kind of make a decision from there. And so I'm going to be for option A. And again, I'm all for community input. I'm Mr. Community after all, but I just think I'm not really sure what I can glean from having a third panel of community stakeholders and influencers. And plus just, it's more work on staff because they're going to have to organize it. And, it's not like we have a lot of time here. And I know Dave wants to get back to being retired. So, the faster we can kind of get information and make decisions, I think that bodes well for us. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Councilwoman Blaisdell.
My preference is option B. Reason being is this city manager is representing Pasco as a whole. So I think that that's more reason for this person to build relationships with council, the directors, and the stakeholders. They're going to have the relationship with all of those people. And the stronger the relationship they have with everyone, the better city we will have. I think that our stakeholders are really important to the city, and I think that their opinions matter.
All right, I do appreciate that. I know I'll give it to Mr. Perales in a second to do his motion, which one he decides he wants to push forward first. I will say, whether it's Whitney or some of the other members, we do talk to them. We have the social hour. You are going to talk to people. Hey, what's your, and then again, we're always open to emails or phone calls or whatever. So I'm good with both of them. I guess my big take would be, how can we move forward faster? How can we get this done? A lot of times I go with my gut as a business owner, kind of knowing what I would want. Usually kind of get a sense of the person and their qualifications. I think all of us on the council, on the dais, are competent enough to do that. But I mean, again, I'm definitely willing to hear from the community, but I don't think it's a necessity in my book. So with that, and I'm not seeing any other. Oh, Mr. Zabel.
Just one comment, just in the sake of time. If council were to approve option B, we would want to follow that vote with a discussion on who we invite. Thank you.
Okay. Well, with that in mind, why don't we have Councilman Perales tell us what he wants to do first.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to approve option A for the city manager finalist interview process.
Second.
Okay, we got a first by Perales, second by Councilman Grimm. So let's do a roll call on this, make sure we're clear.
Councilmember Barajas?
No.
Oh, wait, for
Option A.
option A. Okay, so no. Okay. Blaisdell?
No.
Grimm?
Yes.
Perales?
Yes.
And Milne?
Yes.
Okay, it's 3-2. Passes.
All right. So with that clarified, let's go on to number 11, which is new business. I'm not seeing anything listed, so let's go on to number 12, miscellaneous discussion. Do we have anything by council, or let's start off with Councilman Perales, and then we'll go to interim city manager Dave Zabel.
Perfect. I'll be brief. Just wanted to, I know we talked about it a little bit, and I sent an email last week, a little bit at the budget meeting. We didn't really touch on it, but I sent over that email about the right-of-way vacation policy change. Wanted to see if there's any appetite to maybe have staff work on that policy change based on those merits I presented in the email. It would help out infill. It would increase property tax base. It would increase taxes on property owner, but it would also provide more property taxes to the city. So I wanted to get interest of the council to see if we could move forward with directing staff to kind of look into that, provide the pros and cons at least.
Councilman Grimm, do you have a
No, no, it was on something else. Sorry, Mayor Pro Tem.
Okay. My 2 cents is that we maybe bring it up when we have the full council. Make sure we have the other two councilmen could chime in and see where we're at with all that. So, was there anything else you'd like to mention?
Yeah, I wanted to talk about fireworks. Like you, I wanted to save it for the end though. I also fielded a lot of phone calls and met with residents this past weekend. I do think we need to look into the merits of perhaps banning them again. It just seemed a lot of people were very irresponsible. We had a record night, and I will say that, I think we're going to get a presentation probably right now or an update. I would rather kind of get an email before seeing it in the news. When I see record numbers, I'm like, well, I kind of wish we would have known more about this prior to the council meeting. But I look forward to the presentation. We have an issue where we're doing more with less, and that's the reason why I brought forward that perhaps looking into HB 2015 and increasing the sales tax, because we do need more officers, we need more firefighters, we need more resources because we continue to grow. There's way too many incidents this weekend that could be prevented, and I think there's a lot of small proportion of bad actors, but they cause great big problems for our city within a 2 to 3 day span. We don't got to make a decision tonight, obviously that wouldn't be appropriate, but I think we need to at least have the discussion. It looked like we lifted the ban 6 or 7 years ago based on a kind of a simple search. I do think we need to look into it. If I could just bear with me, I know we get excited when we get a chance to get out early, but I got a lot of different emails from people. I have one from Diana Bellafato off Salem Drive. This is what she had to say. I had an absolute mess in my front yard, especially my backyard, until I saw my driveway. This is so frustrating. Little bits of melted plastic and shredded cardboard, not to mention, I actually take care of my yard, and then the 4th of July happens, and now I have to clean up all by myself. From Jean, over here in the community also, last night sounded like a war zone with explosive sound. It sounded so loud, it sounded like they were right outside my window. I got another individual who said that, her walls were shaking, her dogs were barking, she had to calm them down. I had another person say they had to leave, actually leave, get in their car and leave and drive just out into the country and try not to laugh, but get away from all the noise. So I think it's great that people want to have fun, but they got to be responsible. And you saw across whole Tri-Cities, people are just making really bad decisions. And so I think it's incumbent upon us to do our research, get with our staff and make a decision here going forward. And I'm a person who was selling fireworks, but we were selling the ones we actually are allowed to use here in the city of Pasco. But you have people bringing in stuff from the reservations and outside other areas. So I'll get off my soapbox, but again, thank you to Pasco PD, Pasco Fire Department for doing a good job. Sorry it was such a record-breaking night. We'll try and get you guys some help and get you the resources that you need. Thank you.
Thank you for that. And since I was here at that vote when we lifted the ban on fireworks overall, I will say that when I was on the ride along, we had a gal call up, was very mad that the kids next door were sprinklers. He tried to tell her that, hey, this is legit. She was yelling and screaming, wanted Pasco PD over there because she felt, that kids shouldn't be running around with sparklers. And I know during the discussion years ago, a lot of it came up was that there was regular stuff that really wasn't worth Pasco PD's time. They want to concentrate more on the illegal stuff, and that's why we allowed the regular stuff that's sold in the city of Pasco to be legit. It's the stuff that's going up in the air. I do feel we should have a conversation as far as how to have more police on this particular day and this evening. I'm all for that. I'd wait to hear if Ken Roski, within the next couple weeks, he's going to give us a report. But I'm saying that it is difficult. We did go back and forth on whether to lift it. And again, if you put the ban, you're still going to have kids with their little firecrackers, sparklers, and you're going to have Pasco PD. And then again, as I said before, there was a lot of other things when you get drunk and you get people with alcohol, partying, that's higher up on the chain. It shouldn't be, but I guess it should be, but it's, when you only have so much police force, it's very difficult to be everywhere at one time. So definitely willing to have a discussion, but right now I still think I'm going to go off with what Ken Roski has said in the past, that they want to concentrate on people that are shooting illegal. And again, with the amount of resources that we have, I would be for that unless we got a different tone came back from Pasco PD. So that's my 2 cents, but I know Councilman Grimm was next.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. Would it be more appropriate to add my comments at the end after were they going to make a presentation or talk about it, or?
Were you planning on this evening? Okay. I wasn't sure if you were. Okay. Well, he is Johnny on the spot on that one then. So,
I just prefer to make them afterwards then,
okay.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. Thank you.
And let's go.
I have a quick request.
Okay.
Now knowing that you have your report ready for today, maybe in an email we can get a comparison of what it was before. So I know the ban was in place for 22 years. 2018 is when we lifted the ban. So I'm curious to see what the numbers were when there was a ban in comparison to now. And just an email is perfect. Thank you.
Okay. And Mr. Zabel, did you still want to?
I was actually going to invite the chiefs up to give their presentations, and then I do have one other item after that.
Okay. Well, let's see what the chief of police has to say.
There we go. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, council members. Quick update on the July 4th and the weekend. It took us most of the morning into the afternoon to pull the data, get it analyzed, get it into a report for me. So that's why you didn't get it well in advance. I didn't have it well in advance. So we were a little busy last night as well. So we hit the ground running this morning. This was a priority for us, pulling this data, but other events from last night got us a little bit behind the 8 ball. So apologize for not getting it to you in advance. See if the clicker's working. Just some graphs and some data for you. It was a, whoops, am I missing a, sorry, but again, we just put this together. I'm just going to start with the staffing levels. So you can see that we staffed up for the night. July 4th for us is a blackout day, which means we don't give any of our field support officers vacation on that day. They all have to work unless it's their scheduled day off. Then it would have been overtime to bring them in. So you can just see that we were adequately staffed. We have some lean times and some beefed up times, but then you also have to remember, in addition to 250 calls for service in that 24-hour period, a little over 10 calls an hour, we had 3 major missions and events that we also had to monitor, the Grand Ole Fourth, the Giza Stadium, and the Riverfront. As far as calls for service, we saw a slight decrease, I think, from last year, this year from last year. And there's a breakdown of the type of calls that we responded to on that day. You can see, as Pro Tem Milne mentioned, domestics, intoxication, all of the other things that come with a celebration. Definitely busy for us, but I felt that as far as calls for service, the events, we were well staffed and did a good job at handling those. Some comparison and some data you can kind of see from how the calls came in. Calls for service peaked up and on the 4th with 252 calls. Number of fireworks complaints across the Tri-Cities is the next box to the right. You'll see that we were lower than Kennewick, about average with Richland, so it's not just Pasco that's dealing with this issue. And then calls for service by hour. I think one of the things that the data shows us is we have to mitigate all of the events that are going on for public safety. Council members that were out witnessed it. It's not as simple as writing a traffic ticket. You do have to seize evidence. So then you have to determine, are you going to take an officer out of service for an hour or so to go process seized fireworks? So it's just a balance. And what we tried to focus on, the message that I gave our folks was we wanted to address anything that was obviously dangerous, things that were potentially going to light brush fires or structures on fire or injure people. Those were kind of our focus. And then the rest of our resources were directed amongst those events that were going on the 4th, the three sponsored events with the river, Gisa Stadium, and the Grand Old Fourth. I'm sure you have questions for me, so I'm not going to keep going on. I'll field the questions. I think the fire chief is also going to give you an update. So I don't know how you want to, if you want his update now, or if you want to ask questions of me.
Yeah, why don't we get fire chief's report, and then we could have questions by council.
All right, sounds good. Thank you, council. I don't have the clicker. There you go. So over here, we just have a couple, broken down in a couple different groups that we'll talk about. Just our planning process, and so how we prepared for the event, our response and deployment, a summary of the incidents, and then the outcomes that we saw. So kind of a little bit of a background on how we planned for this. We did a regional incident action plan, or an IAP we call it, and that included all the municipal fire departments and district fire departments. So we worked together because we realized with the limited resources, I mean, we have enough to properly staff, but there's a lot going on, and sometimes these incidents take more than one or two engines. So we had a master plan for the whole region. We worked with our dispatch center, which is CCOM, and what we did is we upstaffed that. So they had 2 dedicated dispatchers. Normally there's 1 for both counties. So we had 2, one for Benton and one for Franklin County. And with that, we had 2 different frequencies, one for Benton and one for Franklin County. So that helped split that workload. We staffed up an EROC, which is an expanded resource ordering coordinator, which was myself. So I was over it with CCOM. And that position just helps the dispatchers, if large events happen, to help direct where resources need to go in the most effective spot for them to respond to. And then we implemented what's called the Cat 4 dispatching. And what that's used for is events like this, where we know there's going to be a lot of calls coming in. We reduce the amount of resources we send to unconfirmed calls. So if it's a confirmed structure fire or a medical call, we send a full dispatch. But if we have a smoke showing, a possible, we'll send one resource to kind of scout it out and then call in for additional resources. So again, we're trying to maximize our response. And then just so you know, Pasco Fire was fully staffed. So we have a staffing of 21 firefighters. That includes all the captains and battalion chief. So we had a full staffing that night as well. So as far as our response and deployment, so to give you a little background, our typical shift, which is a 24-hour shift, starts from 8 in the morning till 8 the next morning. We average about 24 calls for service. That includes all fire and EMS calls. What we saw for the 4th and going into the 5th is we had 86 calls for service. 67 of those calls were in Pasco. We received aid, so that's a mutual aid or automatic aid agreement. So if we have Kennewick or Richmond coming to help us, we had 10 of those, and then we gave aid to 19 of those, or 19 calls. So that means we went out of our district. One of the things we gave direction to our battalion chief was to make sure that when we're going out, to make sure Pasco is still fully staffed. So we want to make sure that we maintain a full complement of resources in Pasco, and that's where that EROC comes into play and helps direct. If they're calling too many, we help stabilize where resources are going. One of the big things with that too is we don't want units kind of crossing each other, so we try to keep them in their areas. So in particular, if you can go back one more, please. In particular, what I want to look at is that 4 p.m. to 3 a.m. time frame on the 4th of July. So the whole shift, we had 86 calls. During that one time frame of 4 to 6, we had 69 of those, 69 calls there. 51 calls were in Pasco, received aid, 10 calls, and we gave aid 18. So that was a very busy time for us. I think that's probably the busiest we've seen in Pasco for the fire department with that. This kind of gives an idea from that those 69 calls that we had, the event types. So we had 35 natural cover fires or wildland fires. We had 6 residential structure fires, 2 commercial structure fires, 3 vehicle fires, 8 trash can fires or dumpster fires. And then of course we had some other, like a fire alarm, some accidents, and then several EMS events as well. Next slide. So here's a picture of one of the areas we went to actually several times in the evening. You can kind of see that Basketball court right there is littered. There was a lot of activity over there, and so that's just an example of our crews out there working. Again, you just had one resource out there, so though we were able to handle all the calls efficiently, didn't reduce staff, and so we had a little more stress on our crews out there. So our outcomes, overall, we had one civilian injury. It was a very minor injury that didn't require transport. We had 0 firefighter injuries. Of those calls, the 69 calls, 54 were fire-related calls, and 52 of those were directly related to fireworks. So the 2 that were not were 2 vehicle fires that were on the highway. And the good thing is with our dispatching and with proper preparation, we were able to dispatch our incidences very quickly with our dispatch center, and we were able to provide a very quick response. Of those calls, it sounds pretty significant as far as the residential structure fires and commercial fires. When we came out of it, at least for Pasco, we had very limited actual property damage, and that's why I want to put the last thing in here: our huge community support. We actually saw, because there's so many people out there, that they actually reported very quickly, and we actually had a lot of people out there with hoses and helping us, so they were putting out fires pretty fast, and so we saw most of those fires that were out of residence, people were putting water on it through a hose, bucket brigade in a way, and so by the time we got there, the fire was pretty much controlled. So I just wanted to point that out, that our community had a huge part in our success. And that's kind of a high level update on fire. Be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for that. Do we have any council members that would like to make comments? So start with Councilwoman.
Just a quick question. Can we get this presentation, both presentations, emailed to us? Thank you.
Okay. Councilman Grimm.
No, thank you. I just want to thank Chief Roski and Chief Crowley and your staff just for, just Pasco's finest in the blue and the white out there. And I know it makes for a long day and a long night, and it sounds like a couple, our Mayor Pro Tem and Councilwoman Blaisdell got to attest to that. So really, no, I just wanted to, I guess say thank you. And where some of this comes from, I mean, there is a lot of rhetoric out there. I mean, I heard some, really strong words, and I want to assure the public that we do care about this. This is important. And when we hear words like, completely out of control, or that we don't even care, no, we do take this really, really seriously, as I know the Chief of Police does. And he's a lawman by, it's got to be deep in that blood at some point in this career. So this stuff's really important. But I think, a lot of this comes down to, pardon the pun, I think it's just a flashpoint of a, larger picture in society of, the fabric of society continuing to be unwoven by people's, I guess, the entitlement mentality we have. People lack good judgment, respect for authority, even respect for God for that matter. And people just don't fear consequences anymore. I think we see that in the amount of red lights that people run and how late, oftentimes you see somebody going late through a light and you think to yourself, wow, that was pretty late. And then 2+2, somebody else is still going through. And so sadly, I think, the mob mentality sometimes sets in on an event like the 4th of July, and people see other people doing it. And sometimes there's like an energy that flows through the crowd, and everybody just starts behaving very poorly. And it's very frustrating, I guess, to me, and I know to the rest of us and everything. So Chief, I really appreciate your crews out there, just keeping up the good fight and, keeping our city as safe as possible. So thank you very much.
Thank you for that, Councilman Grimm. We got Councilwoman Blaisdell.
I just have one other comment. I started at 8, ended at midnight. By midnight, my anxiety was high. I was super overwhelmed. And the fact that every single police officer and every single firefighter and EMS was calm. They went on to the next call, no matter what call. I mean, we went on a fire call. We went domestic violence. We went overdose. We went to any car accident with kids. Like, the list went on in a 4-hour period. And they all stayed calm. And I'm like, how are you not losing it right now? And they were as calm, every single one of them. as calm as the beginning of their shift till the end. So all I have to say is it takes a special kind of person to do what you guys do. And you guys see more stuff than I can even imagine. And I've had my fix of 4-hour police calls for probably a good 6 months. But as much as the fireworks are once a year, you guys do this every day. And you guys see this stuff nonstop. So I just want to say one more time, it is appreciated. And I know every single one of your people, our people, are putting their best foot forward no matter what they see. And one thing I really appreciated with Officer Franz is he was more protected of what I saw. Like, he wanted to make sure that he didn't traumatize me in whatever call we were going to. But they dealt with the situation and went to the next, no matter what was thrown in their way. So I just want to make sure that the citizens know that public safety is first, no matter what. So appreciate it.
Thank you for that. I do want to echo that. I know one of the bigger things I got out of it was officer that I was with, he had to go up and there was about 15 guys that surrounded him when he went up and they were done with the fireworks, but they had just finished. And again, all this group of guys surrounded him like, oh, that's bad. I'm in the cop car and he's out there by himself, but he handled it really well. And it just kind of hit me that, our decisions, other people are having to go out and answer for that, to explain it. And so it just kind of weird when you vote on something and then you see another guy in the fray, in there, surrounded by people. Again, it all turned out well, but I was thinking, well, if something does go down, this is really bad because I'm in the car and I'm not going to be able to give him that much assistance, me against 15 guys. But it went well and he handled it expertly. And so just another thing I will say, that it's weird when we make decisions and then other people in the police force have to go out there and answer to those decisions that we've made. So it a little bit of eye opener. And again, I also want to echo Councilwoman Blaisdell's comments about how professionalism and how everybody was calm, and I do really appreciate the experience and the opportunity to go out there and spend 3 hours with you guys. It was a good experience. Thank you.
One final comment.
Okay, we have another comment from.
Just a final comment. I am very sorry that I had to miss it this time. I had family that I needed to tend to, but I'm very curious to organize right along in the near future, just to see how things have mellowed down since. I know your officers have always done a great job at making sure when there's a ride along that we're well taken care of. I've been on one before, and have seen a lot of what they go through. One thing that we as council members need to consider is that our officers, both fire and police, are always out there exposing their lives for what they do. We need to make sure that the services, we need to somehow fix the budget to where they have the services for mental health and to be able to take care of themselves and their families. So I just want to highlight that now that we've all seen what the officers go through. So just keep that in mind in the future. Thank you, Chiefs.
Thank you. Thank you for that report. And yeah, I look forward to getting a written copy of that as well. And so kick it back to.
And just one more comment. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. And that is, we don't have a report on the July 4th festivities in general just now. We don't have the software and the staff to put that kind of thing together. It's Jesse doing it by himself. And we'll have that for you next week, though. And get into kind of the attendance. It was very well attended, very well, council noted, very well executed, as well as sponsorships, which were pretty high, and a lot of support out there in the community. So we're anxious to get that to you, but it's kind of one of these years where when you have July 4th on a Friday or Saturday, it's hard to turn it around by Monday night.
Well, I appreciate that. Yes, that would be difficult. So with that, we don't have a need for an exec session. So it's going to roll us into number 14, which is adjournment. And without anything, we are adjourned. Thank you.